Have you ever spread olive oil on your oven, wrapped a cotton pad around an oil bottle, or packed 2 sponges in a freezer bag? In this video I show you 17 incredible kitchen tricks that almost nobody knows but everyone should. If you use the blender jug like this regularly, then you know that the biggest problem is getting it clean again later. With some appliances you can remove the stick and wash it externally, but if this is not possible, I have a brilliant trick for you. Take a bowl of water, put a little washing up liquid in it, hold the appliance in it once, start it briefly, and it will be clean again straight away. This way you don't have to reach into the bottom of the blade with your fingers to clean it, and the risk of injury is much lower. You want to have breakfast but forgot to get the butter out of the fridge in time? Now it's still rock hard. If you then somehow get the butter off and try to smear it on the bread is usually pretty ruined afterwards. But there are really 2 ingenious tricks to make it much easier. For example, with the peeler. Simply peel off thin slices of butter, as you can now spread them much more easily. Another option would be to use a sieve like this. Press it lightly onto the butter and pull it from front to back. As you can see, small strands of butter will end up in the bowl. You can simply remove these and then spread them quite easily on your bread. If you have ever whipped cream or anything else in such a large bowl, then you will know that the biggest problem is that the cream splatters all over the place. A simple paper plate is all you need to counteract this. Hold it like this under your appliance and find the 2 holes for the sticks. Cut them open here and push the sticks through again. Now you have a small lid that ensures that the cream no longer splashes around but only against this lid. You probably also have a roll of paper towels somewhere in your kitchen in case you need some. Instead of just putting them somewhere in the corner, you should put them in a cupboard. You see why now? Because if you have a cupboard that is at the head height where you still have a little space, then you can simply open it and put the roll in there now. Make sure that it protrudes a little from the bottom of the slit in the cupboard. Because when you close the door again, you won't be able to see the roll itself, just the beginning of the roll. And there you can actually pull on it perfectly once. Then tear the whole thing off at the end, and so you always have your paper towels to hand and don't have to waste any extra space in the kitchen where they stand around looking ugly. Have you also already laid out baking paper all over your kitchen? You can now see why this is a very good idea, because baking paper can help with the problem that you're certainly familiar with. A lot of dust, dirt and grease splashes from cooking usually collect on the kitchen cupboard. To prevent this from happening in the future and to avoid having to clean the top of them, you can simply place baking paper on top. Make sure it matches the color of your kitchen and perhaps stick it down a little at the corners so that it doesn't just fall off again. All the dirt will now settle on the baking paper instead of the kitchen cupboards. You can then simply replace it at some point and you won't be able to see it from below. If you don't want to use baking paper, you can also use some old newspapers. And did you know that you've probably been opening pasta packaging like this incorrectly all your life? If you buy some spaghetti and want to open the packaging, how do you do it? Do you just cut off the top or do you tear it open carefully? Most of the time, unfortunately, you tear it open too far or, for example, sideways, as you can see here. The problem is that you won't be able to reseal the pack easily, as there isn't just a small gap at the top. However, a simple ingenious trick is all you need to do. All you have to do is take the pasta packaging in your hand and hit one side hard on the table, as you can see me doing now. Because if you hit it hard on the table, it will open on the other side, as all the spaghetti is now pressed upwards with force. And it's already open at the top at a very specific point, and it's not pulled down any further at the sides. This also makes it easier to close again. You crack a few eggs because you want to bake something, but when you tip them into a bowl you notice that there is a bit of shell in the egg. You try to get it out with your finger, but it doesn't work because the shell keeps slipping to the side. All you have to do is get your finger wet, hold it underwater briefly, then go into the shell and you will come straight to the eggshell and can remove it just like that. You grab a board and want to chop something up, whether it's an onion or any other vegetable, but the board keeps slipping back and forth. There is a simple trick that you can use to prevent this. All you need is a damp cloth or a damp paper towel. Simply place this under the board and nothing will wobble back and forth. Everything stays in place and you can chop everything with peace of mind. Incidentally, there is another trick for onions, because if you always have the problem that your eyes start to water as soon as you cut an onion, try this. Take a paper towel, wet it and simply place it next to the onion on the board. Because when you cut the onion now, your eyes will no longer water. It really works, just give it a try. For the next trick you need an oil bottle and a cotton wool pad. Fold it in half once and cut a small piece out of the center. Do this so that when you unfold it again, you have a small hole in the center. You can then put this cotton wool pad over your oil bottle. It should be just big enough to fit over the oil bottle. In the end it should look like what you see here. The advantage of this is that if a little oil runs down here, for example after you use it, it now ends up in the cotton pad and no longer simply runs down the oil bottle. You end up with a completely oily bottle, and so you can really easily prevent the whole thing. There is also a really ingenious trick for storing bread in its packaging so that it stays fresh for longer, because maybe you just close everything up here and then put it on one side. However, you will usually notice that the bread is no longer as fresh or soft after a while. Instead you should try it like this. Turn the whole thing upside down, and instead of just laying it out like this, you can now put it on top of each other. It's much better packed this way and airtight, and you don't need an extra clip to seal the bread. The worst thing about a clove of garlic is always removing the skin, but there are a few ingenious tricks for this too, some of which I would like to show you here. These make it really quick and super easy. For the first one, take the garlic clove between your index finger and thumb and give it a quick squeeze. As you can see, the skin opens and you can peel it off sideways in its entirety, freeing the garlic clove completely immediately. If it doesn't work between your fingers, take a larger knife, place it on the garlic clove and press firmly until it cracks briefly. This will also open the skin and you can simply peel it off from the side. And if you want to peel several cloves of garlic at once, then you simply need one of those screw top jars. Now put in the amount of garlic cloves you want to peel. Now you need a lid, which you screw back on top. Then simply start shaking this jar. Shake it for about 30 seconds. You would then see that most of the skin slowly come off and you can get the garlic cloves out whole and the skins have completely disappeared. You have bought a bag of crisps, open them and eat a few. But in the end there are still some crisps left in the bag. But what should you do now if you don't have a clip to close the bag of crisps again? Use this ingenious trick. Fold the top of the bag over 3 or 4 times. Now you should fold both corners inwards as you can see here. And now take what is still on the inside of the bag and fold it over completely. This will completely secure the bag. And now you can shake it as much as you like. The crisps will no longer fall out and it is completely sealed so that you can simply put it back in the cupboard and take it out again the next time you want to eat some crisps. For the next trick you should take some butter and smear a small amount of it on top of the pot you're about to use for cooking. The butter will ensure that the water or milk you are boiling can no longer boil over, but stops at this point and goes back down again. For this trick you need 2 of these sponges. Put them in a little water and squeeze them a little, so that they soak up the water. Then take them out again and let the water run off a little. Don't squeeze them out completely. Just make sure that most of the water simply runs out, is already gone. Now put them in a freezer bag like this. Once you've put them both in here, take them to your freezer. Put them in here and leave them in the freezer for about 2 hours. You can of course leave them in for longer. You can now use it as a cool pack for drinks or your shopping if you no longer have any normal cool packs at home. And if you've never used olive oil on your oven before, then you definitely need to try this trick. But you shouldn't just tip the olive oil into your oven. You need to do something completely different with it, because I'm talking about the outside of the oven. Most of the time we find dirty fingers or marks of some kind on the stainless steel surfaces. The first step is to wipe it completely clean and then wipe it completely dry, so that these fingerprints and all the other dirt are removed. Now you need a paper towel. Put a very small amount of olive oil on it. Really just a small drop is enough. Now start rubbing it over the stainless steel surfaces. This will not only make the surfaces really shiny, but new fingerprints and dirt will no longer accumulate so quickly. It is impregnated, so to speak. And as you can see here in the before and after comparison, it looks much nicer and shinier. Would you also like to learn more about 10 unexpected things you can cut with an egg slicer? Then be sure to watch the video I've linked to you here. Click on it now.